Monday morning, college football week number 7, crossing the halfway point. He is Mr. Brad Powers on the stream for another Brad Powers release show here on Covers YouTube. As always, if you haven't hit the subscribe button down below and you're enjoying the show, I see a lot of you in the chat talking about the win on Buffalo last week. Hit the subscribe button, follow along. Lots of great content from the entire team here at Covers.com going out each and every day, all football season. Brad, it is a busy Monday morning. A lot of movement. What are you attributing the busyness of the Monday morning college football market to at this point in the season?
Well, it's tough finding value as we move further along. The numbers get tighter, and it just seems like if you don't go early, somebody else will. So I know the limits aren't like they are on Thursday and Friday, but it's all about getting the right number. And even if you need to take a smaller bet size, you want to get the right number. So we're seeing, half the board move this morning already.
You got the right number last week on 3 of the 4 bets, which all turned out to be winners on that side of things. But a lot of people in the chat, I'm curious, I mentioned to you before we came on, everyone was keying in on the Buffalo win, more so than anything else. And so I want to know if you're in the chat. I saw Bobby Boucher and a couple others. They were really high on the Buffalo win and celebrating it this morning. But I want to know what really stood out to you about that Buffalo handicap that we did on the video, because I'm really curious about that. Don't get me wrong. Great bet, great number, but I'm curious to know what you guys saw specifically from your end that really made it stood out. Maybe we'll have something more to talk about on that as we go through. But Brad, we have a couple of bets today. So with it being Monday morning, Thanksgiving morning here in Canada, I think we get to it. So we'll do it the same way as we always do. We'll tell you what time the game we are betting on is, and these will all be for Saturday, again, on the main card, so you won't have to bounce around far. You'll find that game on Saturday morning at the time slot. I'll tell you what the game is specifically so you can key in even further. I'll then tell you if it is a side or a total. And then I will tell you what Brad is betting when it comes to it so you can rush through, get that bet, and put it into the account. Brad, we've been north of 85% for how people have been able to get it. So let's see if we can match that number. You're ready to go? I'm ready to go. Let's get to the first one. So it is a game Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So make you scroll a little bit for the first one. 4 p.m. Eastern time is the first bet of the week for Saturday. We'll give everybody a few seconds to get ready. Again, Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern on the main card. The game at 4 p.m. Eastern is rotation number 191-192, Wisconsin at Michigan State. Again, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 191-192, Wisconsin at Michigan State. In this game, we are betting a side. And the first bet of week 7 is Wisconsin minus 6.5. Is it going to be one of these days again? We saw Pinnacle jump right off the hop, but everywhere else still 6.5 with some 6s at a few places. Let's see how this one did as people comment in the chat what they were able to get, where they were able to bet it. We will run the poll as always. Brad, Wisconsin minus 6.5, number that's been bouncing around a little bit. What are you looking at here for Wisconsin at 6.5?
First, my number is 7.5, and while it's only a point of difference, obviously it's through a very key number of 7 in college football. But I'm here to tell you my confidence in that power rating isn't like firm. And here's the reason why. I think it's for the positive for us. There's been a fundamental change in Wisconsin. What is it? They have an interim coach in Jim Leonhard. Not all interims are created equal. This is literally an audition to get the full-time gig. He's had 1 game so far. How'd that result go? Wisconsin 42-7 over Northwestern, by far their best performance of the season. It was not only the final scoreboard that gave me some positive vibes. It was just the overall look and vibe of the team. Much more enthusiastic. The pass game on the offensive side of the ball, it's not even Leonard's forte. Just looks like it was opened up since Paul Chryst is no longer there and no longer the play caller. Wisconsin football threw 6 touchdown passes last week. So anytime this time of year you're looking maybe for fundamental changes, whether it's quarterback or whatnot, in this instance, it's a brand new guy at the top that I think is going to lead Wisconsin to more success than what they had at least in the first 5 games of the season.
As always, the non-intense college football guy as the host stepping in, the interim head coach. That was game one for him a week ago.
That was game one, Adam. And sometimes you say, hey, one game bump for the interim. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. He is right now, if we're putting up a betting number, he is the favorite to get the job. So again, this is not a usual interim, gatekeeper type situation.
Okay, host hat off, handicapping hat on. That first game scenario, forever. You've heard about it as long as I've been 15 years been doing this. You hear it every single time. The first game, head coach, here's the reset, here's the bump. It's always the situation we want to bet into. Is that still a thing at the college level? Because I know in the NFL, it's tapered off a little bit where the market's pricing it in. Is that still a thing for game one? And then I know you said there's some other circumstances, but as that tapers off, when you kind of see that priced in?
Really good question as usual, Adam. It's not usually part of my handicapping forte anymore. In this instance, it is because it's an unusual circumstance where the guy has a legitimate shot to get the permanent gig. So you're right. It's 50-50. I've seen mixed results the last 3-4 years. I will say the other part of the handicap, Michigan State is a team. There's no team in the country that's dropped further in my power rings from where they were like 3-4 weeks ago than Michigan State. So it's not just pro Wisconsin. It's a Michigan State team that fundamentally is much different than what they were just 3-4 weeks ago. They're a really banged up team.
All right. Wisconsin minus 6.5 betting into the spot. Good news again. 90% of people in the chat that voted were able to get the 6.5. Saw a lot of sixes as well popping up within the chat too. So a lot of people on that number at the price given out. Moving on to bet number 2. This game is Saturday again, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be watching it as you wake up. For those of you on the West Coast, for those of you on the East Coast, you'll be getting it in the early slate right around lunchtime. The early spot's always good to get the day rolling. 12 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. The game that we are looking at, 151, 152, Minnesota at Illinois. Give everybody a few seconds to find 151, 152, Minnesota, Illinois. And then I'll give you what we're betting all together coming up very quickly, so get ready to move. We are betting a side. And the bet, Brad, I know we're back and forth, but will be Minnesota minus 5.5 is the fair grade here as we're seeing a couple books start to tip. I think we'll see some availability a little bit skewed here, but let's see what happens within the chat as this starts to light up. This is a game that's been bouncing back and forth for the majority of the morning. When you're looking at Minnesota minus 5.5, what number did you make it? And talk to me here about laying this big of a number on the side with a total this short.
As always, really good question. That would be the question with a low total. Number one, let's start with my number. It's 7 on this one. So we're just under another very key number here. Situationally is why I really like this play. Minnesota off a bye. Minnesota's getting back their best player on offense, Ibrahim, the running back, who missed the last game. That was their first loss of the season. He didn't play. He gets back healthy. But more importantly, it's on the other side. Illinois, the team we're playing against, this is a team that's played back-to-back really physical games against Wisconsin and Iowa. Their quarterback's banged up. He didn't finish the game last week. I think he'll play here, but he's got a high ankle sprain. He's not going to be 100%. And if, let's say he gets banged up again, comes out of the game, the drop-off to the backup is significant here. So, and it's just not the quarterback. It's other position players went down in the Iowa game. So, banged up Illinois team against a fresh team off a bye this time of year in the Big Ten West. That's why I'm not afraid to lay less than a touchdown here with a low total.
Okay, so if we're talking potential drop-off, hey, you're looking 3-4 points? Like how big
3-4 points
if there's injury news?
Yeah, 3-4 points. And maybe that doesn't sound super significant, but when you have a limited team already offensively, it is. So the backup averaged less than 4 yards per pass attempt last week against Iowa. Minnesota's defense is just as good as Iowa. The difference is Minnesota actually has an offense. Iowa doesn't.
Okay, we're seeing at 5.5 specifically 60%. So I know that's going to be a little bit low. When we're looking at 6 or better, 80%. We're able to get 6 or better, which is where we like to be. So in terms of grading this, Minnesota -6, putting you on the spot in the air, but I think that's still a fair number if you're making this above 7.
Yep, 6 for me.
Okay,
Let's
so
grade
we'll
it at that.
grade Minnesota at -6. And again, this is just us trying to make it as fair as possible for everybody. So when we see 80% at 6, I think that's a better number than the 5.5, just in terms of keeping it fair. There was somebody out there, I believe it was Andrew Coots, who was pointing out that 4.5 was available somewhere. Obviously, we're not going there, but there was a wide range of numbers that were posted in the chat from people. Didn't see anything higher than 6 for anything posted. So we'll go Minnesota -6 to go along with Wisconsin -6.5. 2 bets instead of the 3. Brad, I know you said there were a couple others. You held up a sheet of paper with a list of bets just before we came on air, and they were all getting knocked off just before we came live. So just the 2 for today. But as always, we will be back Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, same time slot every Monday, every Saturday. And hopefully we will have a few more for you on Saturday morning. But for now, Wisconsin -6.5, Minnesota -6. Thanks everybody for stopping by. We'll see you on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time.